What's up, everybody? Matt Gajewski and Nate Bailey here. We are back recapping everything from rivalry weekend, week 14 in college football, feast week for a lot of you in the hoop streets. It was a fun one. Unfortunately, as it goes, usually this time of year, a lot of the calendar dictates that we talk about stuff off the field. Not my favorite stuff, but obviously the coaching carousels fully underway. It is tiebreaker season with these conferences being absolutely enormous right now. You just hate to see all of this come down to stuff that's not on the field. But I still had fun when the games were actually on. How was your week 14, Nate?
No, it was good, man. It was a great way to cap off the regular season of college football as we look towards championship week coming up here. Betting record this past week, I went 10-9 on Saturday and then 4-2 the rest of the way before that. So it was fun. Couple of those wins were the same game. Hey, wins are wins, though. We keep it moving. And overall, pretty fun week of football overall that we witnessed here.
I booked a good betting weekend myself. Best one in November, without a doubt. So that was positive to see. It started early in the week with Maction on Tuesday, had Western Michigan. Kind of our wagon in the MAC. Ended up with an Ole Miss win on Friday. A couple other SEC teams bet Missouri over Arkansas, had Toledo. They smashed Central Michigan. Ohio State and Texas Tech dominated their opponents. Greece went out with Utah State at +1.5. They cover by a half point and had Oregon over Washington. There were definitely losses littered in there. I was very confident in SMU. They get upset by Cal. I know we'll talk a lot about that. Georgia Tech, we'll definitely get into that one. Tennessee, Vanderbilt, apparently no one prepares to defend the quarterback run these days. And then one thing before we get in, did you see UAB's injury report? I bet Tulsa, of course, they lost outright. But did you see what UAB put on the field?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
They ruled out, I don't know the exact number, over 30 players. Dude, you know how many? So a travel roster has somewhere around 100 guys. Dude, they had like half of their roster available. And I don't even know how many of those guys were scholarship. I cannot believe Tulsa went in there and lost that game outright. But anyway,
I would bet that they played a lot of red shirts that weren't going to burn their shirt in that game there as well.
Yes, I don't know. That was, it's funny watching all the SEC games. There's so much on the line with a lot of these playoff implications and stuff. And the one that tilted me the most was Tulsa against UAB. But
UAB is just that the program this year, they need an offseason more than anyone, I think, right now.
That is 100%.
Yeah, they need an offseason.
Those are the kind of guys we are, just sweating the G5 more than anything else in these super impactful games. But obviously the playoff picture is crystallizing. We're going to get into that within each conference. We're going to go conference by conference here, talking the results from the week 14 games. Probably touch on some of the coaching changes. They're sort of trickling in here. About half of the jobs are filled. I'm not sure we're done with firings. Probably most of them are done at this point, with teams trying to get a leg up on the ops when hiring new guys. So we'll see on that. But what do you say we dive into the SEC?
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
All right, let's do it. It was a fun week. Some of these games also, just for the people, we're going to talk. There were like Clemson played South Carolina, Georgia Tech. A lot of those games we'll talk in the ACC section, because there were a lot of big games between SEC opponents this week. And the biggest one was actually on Friday. It was Texas A&M taking on Texas. A&M loses the game 17-27. They only finished with a 10% post-game win expectancy. I think Texas just played the better game right away, start to finish, even before the Marcel Reed injury. We saw him go down. He played through it. Ruben Owens got banged up in the game. There were a couple of those situations, but I don't think it mattered, man. This was the best rushing performance from Texas the entire season. First time they had an individual rusher over 100 yards. That was Quintravion Wisner. Arch Manning had a good day scrambling himself, and he continues to look better. I think part of the reason is their young offensive line now has a lot more experience than they did week 1 against Ohio State. So things have come together a little bit for Texas. It does seem to be a little bit too late, but A&M stumbles for the first time. What did you see in this game?
I think going undefeated in the SEC is the hardest thing to do in the country in terms of success in an entire year. So, I mean, I wasn't surprised that this was the result as we're looking back here. Yeah, what you were saying, much better game from Arch, much better season as we look from week 1 all the way until now. Fact that Texas was able to run the ball, I think, gave them a leg up. I certainly think Marcel Reed's 2 interceptions through this game was what definitely hurt them, especially that one at the end there to kind of ice everything. But yeah, pretty impressive win for Texas. They're kind of on the outside looking in right now. I know we'll talk a lot more about the playoff, but they certainly needed this win to keep any sort of hopes alive. A&M will be fine. They're not going to be playing in Atlanta, but I think they're going to be just fine headed into these next few weeks as we look towards the playoff.
Yeah, I think the most tilting thing for Texas, that Ohio State scheduling in week 1. I know everyone that is a fan of this program is coming out and just really asking, like, why did we even schedule that game? And I kind of get it. The real answer why you schedule it is did better ratings than any other week 1 game, and you made a ton of money because you scheduled it, and your AD is probably going to continue doing that. But it might all be for naught anyway. The SEC is moving to 9 conference games, so they're not even going to have opportunities to schedule games like this in the future. They're going to have to play another tough game forcefully through what their conference is doing. But yeah, it's just kind of a good stepping stone for Texas. I think the main takeaway is a lot of these guys are going to be back next year. They have a lot of underclassmen on that roster, especially on offense. The offense should be dynamic next year. Defense, they'll definitely lose a few, but they're recruiting really well on that side of the ball, so no real shame there. You mentioned A&M not going to Atlanta, which ruins my SEC championship of dreams. I had futures on A&M and Alabama, so now we just got to hold our Tide ticket and hope they can get that done. I'm not really worried about Texas A&M. I hope Marcel Reed's healthy is really just the only thing moving forward. You mentioned it's hard to win all your SEC games. Texas A&M had scares previously this year. They battled back. I think they'll be just fine. They're definitely in the mix. Anything else on this game?
Well, one more thing on scheduling these early season opponents. I really think it gives you a leg up throughout the rest of the year because being battle tested that early is really good for your team. I mean, you see a lot of these teams playing FCS teams, which, I know it's important. You got to kind of play the quote unquote warm-up games. That's fine. And obviously for Texas, you can't lose to Florida in the fashion that they did. So there were no excuses for that game. But I really do think that when teams schedule these games early in the year where they are being battle tested, I really do think if you take care of business the rest of the year, it should set you up for success later on in terms of playoff resumes. This was the win, and that game against Ohio State was another thing to look at that could actually help them when it comes time for the committee to make their decision.
The biggest leak, media, whoever's on this committee, and a lot of just the public, is the inability to evaluate strength of schedule. And it's become worse when more of the talent is occupied in these big conferences, the SEC and the Big Ten. If you think about the playoff picture and go back to the conferences even 2 years ago, all right, Oklahoma would be the Big 12 champion. Texas would probably be a runner-up in that conference. Both those teams are in the SEC now. You had the Pac-12 previously. Oregon would be there. So they would be in the playoff. They would just be in a different conference. People get all upset about including 3 Big Ten teams, 4 or 5 SEC teams. It's like, dude, the best teams from the Big 12 are now in the SEC. The Pac-12's best teams are now in the Big 10. It just kind of is what it is. The only thing that really irks me is, one, the imbalanced schedules, because you have so many teams in the conferences that can't all play each other, and it leads to a tie-break fest, which is awful. Great for content because people just like to get pissed and yell about stuff that aren't actually the games. And then outside of that, you still have this problem where people don't seem to have the ability to realize, okay, like the SEC is significantly better than the Big 12, significantly better than the ACC, which is troubling for a team like Texas. And if you don't end up with a 2-loss team in this conference as a 2-loss team or a 1-loss team, you might be deserving, but you're dead. For example, like the old VCS programs, what we used to evaluate a national championship on, Texas is in. But because they play in this new era where a bunch of suits vote on who gets in the playoff, Texas is out. So someday they'll figure this out, or the SEC will just secede, which is very much on the table. I know people don't want to hear that either, but they have that power. They'll come to an agreement with the Big Ten and play each other at the expense of college football further. But that's kind of a story for another day. Anything else here?
Nothing else for me right now.
All right, let's move on to greener pastures. Oklahoma, they stave off LSU in a very scary game. Now, the post-game win expectancy was 90% Oklahoma. They vastly outgained LSU, 6 yards per play to 3.6. LSU just couldn't move the ball again. You're going to see a lot of stats. I think LSU didn't score more than 25 points against an FBS team all year, which is atrocious for an offense that is supposed to be high-powered. But really, there wasn't much of a drop-off from Nussmeier to Van Buren. Just Nussmeier and Van Buren are that bad. Didn't get any help from a very young offensive line. Had no run game the entire season. Receivers were not what they paid for, and they needed to win these defensive battles. Unfortunately, they did that for 99% of the game, but then you have Satina streaking down the field as he does once a game seemingly, and that was enough to get OU a victory despite turning the ball over 3 times. It was bad Mateer game through 99% of it outside of that deep pass. What did you see here?
Yeah, it definitely, I mean, from a scoreboard perspective, it definitely looked greasy. And then I wasn't too impressed with Oklahoma here either. Like, I know when you look at both these teams, the strengths lie within their defense, right? But as a probable playoff team here, Oklahoma looked horrible for the most of the game. Otherwise, when you do look at the box score, I mean, Satanga had a great play there. That was a huge play. That was their real bright spot in the passing game. Nothing else really stuck out to you here. For the LSU side here, I mean, Van Buren wasn't great once again. You know, he's not getting any help. Trey'Dez Green had another horrible drop. He had 1 catch for 30 yards. Again, I know both these teams, they rely on their defenses for their strengths, but I certainly was not impressed with Oklahoma while watching this game at all.
I don't know how you could be, especially on offense. Their O-line is still banged up. That's been a problem for about half the season now, maybe even more. And that's not going to get any better. Mateer does not have very good receiving weapons. It's Satina, and that's it. Deion Burks is not what they paid for coming from Purdue. And then Keontae Lewis can't stay on the field. And Giovanni Gibson, the FCS transfer, he should not be at Oklahoma. I don't know why they signed him. They couldn't find a 4-star recruit and poach someone off like Kentucky's roster. I don't know how that happened. So, yeah, I mean, they're just going to have to win defensive battles. They'll be in the playoff. They will not win the college football playoff more than likely. They do not have enough juice offensively or statistically to get this done. But one quiet thing is, you know, LSU won through their defense and Blake Baker and was able to, I mean, they're going to go to a bowl now. And I think people just view LSU as this bottom feeder in the SEC. This team is littered with NFL players, especially on defense right now. This is not a pushover opponent. So people that want to dog Oklahoma for this game being in it with LSU, this is still a quality win. I'm a little bit impressed with Oklahoma just being able to grease out these games. LSU, better days are ahead. Lane Kiffin is coming to town. We'll talk about that, I'm sure. But I'm interested to see Oklahoma's draw in the college football playoff. If they get a high-powered offense, I will be looking to bet against them. Anything here for you that you want to talk about LSU-wise or Oklahoma moving forward?
Oh, yeah, and I know a lot of people yesterday were talking about the possibility of Oklahoma actually dropping a few in the rankings because of this game. And, you know, again, while I wasn't super impressed with them on the field yesterday, it was a gritty SEC win, which, again, anyone you're playing in that league is going to be tough. So the fact that they did end up grinding that one out, I mean, there still is something to be said about that. So I don't really think we can penalize them for it, but I definitely see that there are a few red flags that still stick out here with this team.
Yeah, man. I mean, like going back to Alabama in week 12, they won that game, but their power rating dropped in my stuff, in BCS stuff, in a lot of computer stuff, and Alabama's rose in a win. This is what happened in a win, which is why just outcomes are important. They definitely deserve to be in the playoffs, but this is a forward-looking show. I'm not here to tell you who's deserving to be in or out. I'm telling you, we're trying to figure out the outcomes ahead of time, who we want to make money on, and Oklahoma is a fade candidate to me for some of those reasons, depending on opponent. I mean, if they end up playing like, I don't know, James Madison, yeah, I mean, we're probably smashing Oklahoma. So let's cross our fingers on a fun round one draw for them in the playoff. I'm not buying Mateer. But one game I want to spend some time on is Alabama-Auburn. This outcome did not match the post-game win expectancy. Alabama 27-20 in the Iron Bowl. 45% post-game win expectancy. They averaged 3.8 yards per play. This was Ty Simpson's worst game of the entire season, even though he didn't have any turnovers. They just couldn't move the ball through the air. This was actually the best, maybe not the best, one of the best rushing outputs from Alabama all season long, and they still only average 4.2 yards per carry. Jam Miller did get hurt in this game. Not that he's a difference maker at all. And they were playing a backup quarterback for Auburn. Ashton Daniels was the QB for Auburn again. It's almost inexcusable right now the way Alabama's playing with the talent on their roster, man. I think this team also might be dead. They are the opposite of peaking at the right time. And this is a multi-week problem for them. I'm nervous for them against Georgia. Georgia's already been pounded in the betting markets, but this is a one-dimensional offense that now opposing teams are keying in on. I'm very nervous for Alabama's inability to run the ball and now being forced to pass every play. I don't know, man. There's a lot of problems with this team.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely one of their better running games of the year. This is a bottom 50 team in the entire country in terms of rush yards per game. So that is already a concern when you're going to go play a monster that is Georgia. The one thing that's interesting about Auburn, this might come off as a hot take, but I'm kind of surprised Ashton Daniels has not been playing longer for this team this year. To me, he looks better than Jackson Arnold looked. He actually runs. He's much better out of the pocket. So an incredibly impressive performance from him, even though they came up short. If Auburn's receivers could actually catch the football, they'd be some of the best in the entire country. But that fumble from Coleman at the end killed them. They had a couple other major drops throughout the game. One of those plays was Daniels actually threw a pretty good ball. The running back did not want to come back to it at all when it was a crucial conversion there. So incredibly concerning in the pass game for those receivers. But yeah, I wasn't super impressed with Alabama in this game. Again, I know Ty Simpson had a rough one here, but this is a team that's going into a rematch with Georgia. We already know how hard it is to beat a team twice. Playing this Georgia team that seems like they're playing better than almost anyone in the country right now is incredibly concerning right now.
Yeah, we had 3 drops for Alabama in this game as well. That's been a problem at times. The weird thing there was Ryan Williams had 0 targets. Talk about a fall from grace.
What was with that? I didn't know if he was hurt. He was also on the sideline for half the game.
Dude, he only plays 50% of the snaps. He's been doing that since like week 2. They are using Latsier Brooks. They're using their depth pieces, sometimes 2 tight ends. He's not playing.
I do like Horton a lot, but I mean, let's really think about Ryan Williams as a whole. Other than that Georgia catch last year, he really has not done much at all.
He's done nothing.
Yeah, he's done nothing. He's not getting open. He's done nothing.
I mean, he does have a lot of bad drops on deep passes. And like Latsier Brooks is a really high recruit, a young player Horton they brought in from Miami. Obviously, Jeremy Bernard is an absolute stud and their best receiver by a mile. So, yeah, I mean, I don't really get it. The offensive line wasn't a huge problem in this game. Only 16 pressures and 40 dropbacks for Simpson. So it's like, it's not good, but it's not in a terrible range. He did take 3 sacks. He was holding on the ball for a long time. Auburn has a fantastic defensive line, so I'm not sure what the game plan was there with some of the longer developing routes. It was just an overall very curious game plan, especially not to involve your best receiver on paper. For Auburn, I mean, I understand what you're saying about Ashton Daniels. I saw him play a ton at Stanford. He was horrible there. I can't believe he looked – maybe that's an indictment on Stanford, though. Anyway, it's basically just going to be a battle for Golish to keep the recruits that Hugh Freeze brought in, who he didn't maximize. We got to worry about like Deuce Knight, Cam Coleman, all of the ineligible players for the draft this year. Are these guys on Auburn's roster next year? I'm a little worried about that.
The only thing too with Daniels is he does get rid of the ball quicker than Arnold too. So that was actually good to see. I mean, again, you're not really, I mean, as okay as he was, he's not better than a lot of the quarterbacks in that league. So, I mean, I thought going into that, looking at this team now, evaluating them as a whole, I think he was an okay option. He obviously wasn't great, but I mean, the Auburn quarterback situation this year has just been mediocre at best anyway.
So they're bringing in Golish from South Florida, previously of Tennessee. We already heard Daniel say he's going to return next year. I'm just curious what this does for Deuce Knight, man. Because on one hand, that Tennessee staff, when Golish was there, was pumping QBs in the NFL. Now, none of them are any good, and none of them have done anything. You've got Joe Milton, Hendon Hooker, and they like a type two, a dual threat. We see that with Golish and Byron Brown right now. They also run a very funky offense. It's not very conducive to the NFL. They put a lot of players in the league, but they don't often have any success. So I'm just like curious where Deuce Knight and Cam Coleman end up on this spectrum. Auburn has a ton of money. They recruit really well. So I think there's a chance they end up there. But the Daniels returning just kind of, I'm raising my eyebrows what Auburn's got on their hands next year. Golish's got to do some really heavy recruiting with this offense. But last thing, Alabama in or out?
So here's my thought on this, right? I think it all depends on the product that you're going to see against Georgia. If they beat Georgia, obviously they're in. If they lose in a very competitive fashion, I think you're also going to still see them in. Because again, I really don't think you can penalize teams for playing in that championship game. Everyone wants to play. Everyone should at least want to play in the championship game. That's what it didn't seem like for the SEC this weekend, but I think every team should still want to play in Atlanta in December, right? If we see Georgia beat Alabama by 20, 25 points, I think there can be an argument made based on the product of football that's on the field for them right now to leave them out. I really do.
I don't have any pushback on anything you said. I completely agree. Like these committees, the NCAA, conference commissioners that want the championships for monetary reasons, they're already fighting a battle that this game means something when, most of us know that this is not what teams are playing for. Like putting that banner up in your building, it's cool. That's not what Alabama wants though. So I don't know. I'm very curious to see what they do.
I got one other thing with Alabama because I actually was having an argument about this earlier and about their success this year on the field with them underachieving a lot this year, right? So, I mean, if you look at Alabama in the country, like we could probably say that they're a top 2 roster when you look at blue chip ratings, expected talent level of where some of those guys should be from when they were freshmen, right? This team should be a top 5 team in the country without a doubt right now. But I mean, if you look at the product that's on the field, they've 100% underachieved. And this is looking at the rosters, one of the better Alabama rosters, not in the country, but one of the better Alabama rosters of the past few years. And you see the game that they play against Auburn, you see the Oklahoma game, you see games like that, and they've had a couple other they almost got stumbled up on this year. It's like this is definitely a team that's underachieved a lot this season.
I have them number 1 coming into the season.
Yeah.
I do my power rankings a little different than a lot of people. This is the number 1 recruiting team over the last 3 years, the last 5 years. Pick your length of time. Go back all the way to Saban. This is the number 1 recruiting team. They have the best talent. You want to talk guys transferring, decommitting? It doesn't matter. Factor that in. Look at retention. They're still number 1. This is a coaching thing to me, and a lot of it is on defense, man. They're not getting anything out of their edge rushers. Like, where's Yanze Pierre? Like, I don't know. Where are these players? Now, some of them have been hurt, so I get it. Like Jamarian Lathan getting hurt in week 1. Yeah. You have 5 stars at every position. That's not a joke. I'm not even 4 stars, 5 stars. The best top 50 players in the country come to your program. So, yeah, I'm with you. They have underachieved. Depending on who you ask.
Your best defensive player is Bray Hubbard this year.
Which is
he's been their best defensive player, hands down.
He wouldn't have been my pick for the best player coming into the season, but I don't
Not one bit.
Either.
Not one bit.
Anyway, that's enough Bama talk. We'll see what they do this week. Huge game against Georgia. Georgia's already getting pounded in the betting markets. I missed the best number when they were a dog. But we have one more game on our sheet. We will talk Georgia in the ACC portion and some of the other games where there was cross-conference rivalries. I bet Tennessee, and they got boat raced by Vanderbilt. It was kind of close for a little bit, but like quarter 3, Vandy smashed this team. 100% post-game win expectancy, 8.9 yards per play. Nearly a first down every play they ran. Pavia, 9.5 yards per pass attempt, 8.5 yards per carry. That was mostly Pavia. I don't know. And they had 2 turnovers in the game. Pavia has a couple interceptions early on. I'm counting my money before it's in my wallet. And then it's like Tennessee never even realized Pavia has some mobility. Like edge rushers for this Tennessee team are way upfield, opening these run lanes. There's no one spying him, no even sort of like mush rush on him. I just had perplexed at the game plan for some of these DCs week in, week out against Pavia. I mean, he's going to New York. I don't know if he's going to win, but he's going to be there. What'd you see in this game?
It's funny you mentioned the edge rushers in this game because this entire game, if you turn the sound on, the announcers are just baffled why no one's setting the edge for this guy and how they just kept blitzing. And then Pavia just gets up the field, runs 20, 30 yards at a time. If I'm Tennessee, I mean, this is an in-state rivalry game that for decades and decades and decades, this team is just absolutely owned. And I mean, from the product on the field, I would be ashamed if I'm Tennessee right now. Ashamed. I mean, Vandy's a good team. They're probably they're a fringe playoff team right now. They're probably not going to get in with their body of work, but incredibly impressive job. This is actually Vandy. I believe it's their best year ever, and they've been playing football before they had leather helmets even. You know what I mean? So this is an incredibly impressive season for them. Pavia absolutely deserves to at least go to New York. I think the winner of that trophy is going to be what we see Saturday night, although you can't really use that as a stepping stone to win that award. But I do think that Tennessee, it was an incredibly lackluster performance on both ends from them. And just big win overall here for Vandy in a rivalry game that they've not done well in for decades.
I have no problem if Pavia beats you through the air, especially if you're Tennessee secondary who lost. Jermon McCoy hasn't played at all this year. I mean, they've lost a lot of players back there. Boo Carter decided he didn't want to play. He was one of your best recruits for a team that does not recruit the best in the SEC. He was one of your high 4-stars. But they beat you on the ground, man. And I think Joshua Josephs was a little banged up in this game. He is the best player on this Tennessee defense, their edge rusher. He only played about half the snaps. So that's at least, I want to put that out there. He was not, and that might be a coaching decision. If it is, it's egregious and indefensible. But yeah, I mean, Tennessee, I like what they're building. They just can't incur some of the injuries that they had this year. So I'm curious to see where they go moving forward. Vandy, I don't know if Pavia is going to play next year. If he does, they're going to be right back in the mix. It's all going to depend on him. He's the most valuable player in the country to any team. He's not the best, but he is the most valuable. There's not much postseason-wise here. Both these teams going to go to good bowls. I imagine Pavia plays. Most of the Tennessee guys will too, I would guess. Their receivers are all really young. So we'll see. Shouldn't be opt-out central for these teams, but anything else?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at Tennessee's quarterback situation this year, they traded Nico and just grabbed another Nico, but his name is Joey. So, I mean, it was a fine year for him. You know, nothing really stuck out overall. I mean, they lost all the games they probably should have won a lot of times here. But, I mean, they're going to go to a bowl game. They're going to play someone. They actually might play Iowa again.
That'd be fun.
It'd be actually fun. I actually do think, both teams stack up pretty well against each other. That's what I was taking a peek at some of the bowl projections here, and I think that's who they'll probably play New Year's Eve. So that actually is a fun game, but I think this team definitely underachieved based on what their schedule was this year. I was thinking more they'd be around more of that 10-2 range this year, but I am also interested to kind of see what they do moving forward here as well.
I am as well. They're going to have to figure out QB. Their pipeline has been solid, though, so we'll see. I don't know. I thought Merklinger was going to play some this year. He's their young, good recruit. If he didn't beat out Aguilar, that might be an indictment on him, and they have to go back to the well. But that's Heupel's strength. He'll get a QB in there. Vandy, I want to see what Vandy does recruiting moving forward. But
with what Heupel does with that offense, though, it's one of the most friendly quarterback offenses in the entire country. So whoever they get, if he can just coach him up for an offseason, I really do think if it is a good, solid option, I think they'll be fine.
I mean, you got Joe Milton and Hendon Hooker drafted. Hendon Hooker had an ACL when he was drafted. I mean, it's a good system. Good for receivers, too. It's gimmicky, but it is good. So we have the SEC championship. It is Bama, Georgia. We'll talk about Georgia in just a little bit. So maybe let's put that on pause till we get to Georgia in the ACC section. There were games that were exciting in the Big Ten. The game, of course, up in Ann Arbor, Ohio State boat races Michigan. If the elements weren't so bad, I think this game probably could have been like 45-9. Michigan only got to 9 points off of Julian Sayin turnover, which doesn't happen very often. But anytime Ohio State gifted them field position, they couldn't move the ball. And they end up with 3.9 yards per play. Bryce Underwood played a horrible game, but it is the best defense in the country on the other side. And Sayin finished with a phenomenal game too. 9 yards per pass attempt for him. He's just racking these games up repeatedly. I did bet Ohio State. I was happy to see them get this monkey off their back. They're just the best team in the country right now. What do you think here?
So obviously, you knowing me, I'm the most overreacting person watching a football game and maybe the entire country. So when Michigan took the first lead, I was freaking out. But obviously, Ohio State took care of business here. Bryce Underwood he's about what, $12 million on NIL?
Is that true?
I think it's probably double digit millions right there. 63 yards passing on Saturday. There is absolutely zero excuse for that. Zero excuse. I mean, I know Ohio State's their defense is smothering. They have first, second round picks probably on every position right now, and with a lot of guys still coming back. But I mean, he couldn't do a single thing there. Rushing, they only had 100 yards total on the ground. So I mean, the scoreboard was what it was. This was an absolutely dominant performance from Ohio State. Saying again, incredibly impressive through the air. He threw that first pick, but he really showed great leadership with after that first mistake. He came out and he was lights out. He throws one of the better balls, I think, in the entire country from what I've seen this year. So incredibly impressive. They're setting up probably the best Big Ten championship, I think, in the playoff era that we're going to see coming up next week.
It's going to be awesome because we want some answers on Indiana, and we're going to get them. I agree with you on saying he threaded that ball right up the seam to Carnell Tate.
Oh, that Tate ball
put those DBs.
Insane. Even that Smith ball on the sideline, that was nuts. It was over two DBs. It was in a very hard spot there by the pylon. It was insane.
And that's the thing when you throw to Smith, you gotta thread those windows because he's always getting extra coverage. They don't really have a wide receiver 3. Enos is out there. He'll block better than anyone. Man, he is a good blocker. And then Max Clare hasn't done a ton of tight end. I mean, Will Kasmerick, the Ohio transfer, the blocking tight end, he had a catch in this game. They'll spread it around. It's nice to see Bo Jackson play well, the running back, the young freshman. They needed someone to take the reins from Judkins and Henderson. He's not quite that caliber, but if he can get you some hard yards in games like that, Michigan has a good defense. So it's at least noteworthy to see. I'm not a Sherrone Moore guy, man. Like, I do not think he's a good coach. There's too much talent on this roster for them to be in this position in this game. I don't know if he's long for the Big Ten. He's always probably going to get to 9 wins because half this conference is the MAC, but I mean, I don't know. I'm not sold on that. Anything else there for Michigan?
No, I mean, I don't see him. I really don't see him keeping that job for more than 1 or 2 seasons. I really don't. I think he was handed a very bad situation with the whole scandal anyway, and I think he's done a fine job, but I know the Michigan fan base and that program does not want just a fine job. They want national championships, as we've seen. But no, I mean, this is probably what you're going to get again next year, depending on what the situation is going to be, if guys stay or if they go. I mean, the Bryce Underwood thing, Twitter is fired up about that and what might happen with him. So, I mean, that's a whole nother story. But, yeah, I don't really see – I mean, they don't have a lot of promise right now if you really look at them. And, again, they have a good defense, but the program itself does just not have a lot of promise right now.
They're young. Their recruiting is better, so that is positive. I don't really think that's so much what the staff is doing. They've just injected more money into it. It's how you got Underwood to begin with. But let's move on from Michigan. Greener pastures. Oregon's going to the playoff. They knock off Washington 26-14. Kind of a greasy game. I think it just, like some drive stalled for Oregon that normally end up in touchdowns, and sometimes this happens to good teams. There was an 84% post-game win expectancy. The yardage was solid. Defense played well. They held Damon Williams to 4.3 yards per attempt, forced 2 turnovers. And eventually, when Oregon couldn't run the ball, they tried, and they tried a lot. You had Dante Moore threading incredible needles. He ends up with 9.9 yards per pass attempt with skeleton crew receiver out there again. No DeCorian Moore, no Gary Bryant. Malik Benson finally cashing his paychecks, earning his paycheck for the first time in college. He brought that crazy slant to the house and ran everybody. That's his main skill, is the dude's fast. So I was happy to see them use him that way. A couple drops in the game. Kenyon Sadiq had a bad one down the sideline. So my main takeaway with Oregon, they looked good. They got the job done. A couple mental mistakes that could have made this game maybe like 36-14 instead of 26-14. What about this game for you?
This rivalry right here is one of the sneakier rivalries in college football throughout the whole country. I mean, both these teams, they do not like each other. It's always relatively close. So I didn't bet this game because I was actually a little worried about Oregon actually going to Seattle and playing that game. But, I mean, I was impressed with how they were able to finish. This is always going to be a tough win. I think the past couple weeks, Oregon started to play a lot better. Again, I know they still got to get a little healthier, but if that receiving core is all healthy, if everyone's playing, this is a very hard offense to stop, especially when they do get the running game going there. The running game wasn't great yesterday, but if you get Dante Moore with all those weapons, I really do think this is going to be a very dangerous team as you look towards the playoff here.
I almost am happy they're not playing next week. This team needs
They need rest. Mm-hmm.
bad. And I mean, Harkey played in this game. World played in this game. I don't know how healthy they were playing in the game. I mean, it didn't look good. And a lot of these guys have been in and out of the lineup constantly. Like, this is a team that needed a theoretical bye more than anyone. And fortunately for them, they're a lock to make the playoff. And they're going to have to play in the first round, but they're going to get about a month of rest before they have to do so. So, man, hopefully they can get back to Corey and Moore and some of these guys. We'll see. Washington, man, pretty disappointing season. Jed Fish did an awesome job with Arizona. Washington, not quite where they need to be. They're a little light in the loafers in the trenches, especially. They got to work on the offensive line and the defensive line, man. They just do not have any identity right now, and they can't protect, and they can't generate pressure, and they can't stop the run. Like, they have good skill players, I think. I like Boston. I like Coleman. I actually like Damon Williams too, but the dude's under pressure too much, and they can't get after anybody on defense because you can just run the ball right down their throat. That was probably the most surprising outcome, is Oregon not having success in that game, that area of the field against Washington, who everyone runs on Washington. I don't know. I'm not really worried moving forward, but it's at least noteworthy. Anything on the Huskies for you?
That's definitely something to keep tabs on. I mean, with Washington, I wasn't the biggest Damon Williams fan as like the rest of mainstream media this year. I mean, I think he's been fine. I think he's had spots where he's been really good, but kind of what you said as well here, like the guy doesn't get any help, especially from the line. He's not going to be able to be as dynamic as he probably wants to be. So, I mean, they do need help both sides of the ball in that aspect, but I kind of, this 8-4 finish here is kind of what I expected out of them. They'll go to a fun bowl game. They'll probably go to the Mayo Bowl against who knows. But I mean,
I'm betting against them in the bowl as long as the team they play doesn't have a million opt-outs.
Right. So exactly. So I mean, this is probably about what you were going to get from Washington. Their schedule was relatively hard. But yeah, I'm interested to see what they do in the offseason. I'm interested actually to see if a curveball is not thrown here and something happens with Jed Fish as we look towards the offseason.
He'll be back. His leash is just getting shorter, though. We'll see. A quick roundup of the rest of the Big Ten. As usual, mainly non-competitive games. I put Wisconsin, Minnesota on the screen just because the outcome did not match the post-game win expectancy. You actually had Wisconsin with a 56% chance of winning and Minnesota getting the actual win. There were 3 turnovers. Wisconsin used 2 QBs again. I mean, I don't think you can really be surprised that was the outcome, but it just didn't align with post-game. We had Penn State beating Rutgers in an absolute shootout. The most noteworthy thing there is Penn State's going to a bowl. Michigan State beats Maryland to cash my Maryland under win total, which I was nervous sweating that game. But Michigan fires their coach. Jonathan Smith is out. Looks like Pat Fitzgerald is going to be the head coach there. Maybe that's a show for the offseason. I don't know about that hire. Illinois played Northwestern in another snowy game. They got a win just barely. Both of those teams are bowling. Indiana slaughtered Purdue on Friday. Your Iowa Hawkeyes slaughtered Nebraska. Anything else? Recapping the rest of the Big Ten.
Iowa's win total cashes for me second year in a row here. It is interesting to see this rivalry every year. Why Nebraska really they think it's a bigger game than the Iowa State game, and it's just not.
You have to be good for it to be a good big game.
I believe they're now 15-2. The Hawks are now 15-2 against Nebraska in the last 17. It's not great. I mean, I know they've slipped up a little bit the past couple of years against them, but I mean, it's not the same rivalry. It's a fun rivalry. It's always fun on the last week of the year to have a game like this, but impressive outing from the Hawks. I mean, 8-4 is 8-4. It's a hard schedule, but it was still fun to see him win a game like that. The Black Friday Nebraska game is always fun. I think Wisconsin just likes to spin a wheel on the sideline and figure out which quarterback's going to go out for them for the next series, because every game it's 2 or 3 guys that go out there. So they need to figure their stuff out. But yeah, kind of what you said too, Penn State. Fun to see them make a bowl game, especially with what's gone on through the program this year. So impressive performance against a team that you should have beat anyway with Rutgers.
That was an awesome game. If you like shootouts, I had the Rutgers over win total, so that died on that hill. Sad. But anyway, it was a good season for win totals. Let's go to some conferences that had a little more action, some chaos. Utah, Kansas played on Friday. Utah got kind of a greasy win. This was a 31-21 score, 73% post-game win expectancy. It kind of required some late-game theatrics. like, it was the worst game Jalen Daniels played all year. He threw a 97-yard pick six right at the end of the game. Like this Kansas game, my goodness. They threw an interception on the Utah 25, so right outside the red zone going into score. They missed a field goal from 36 yards, mind you, so another basically in the red zone. They threw an interception at the Utah 12-yard line in the red zone, and then they threw in a 97-yard pick six at the end of the game. I'll call it the red zone. That's basically 4 trips to the red zone or red zone adjacent where you came away with 0 points. 0. They could have beat this Utah team. Now, Utah did not have enough going for them in this game to warrant a playoff consideration with a win. They did too much damage earlier in the year, I should say. But yeah, I don't think this Utah team really played that well of a game and to even deserve like a 73% post-game win expectancy. So I was surprised that's where the math came out here. Anything in this game?
I know I touched on it a little bit last week. Just overall disappointing Kansas year last year even. But I mean, I know they were so limited with a lot of things this year, but I definitely expected a lot more out of Jalen Daniels in that offense. Again, I know this was going to be a tough situation regardless. I mean, Utah's a good team. I'm also disappointed in the Utah situation because I had them as a Big 12 future at the beginning of the year. But not really impressed from the Utes either here. I mean, I think this margin should have been a lot larger if we look at it. But yeah, overall, just kind of a disappointing season here for Kansas.
I agree. I wonder what they're going to do at OC. Since Kotelnicki left, they've been playing roulette with they're basically hiring a new OC every year. I'm really curious to see Utah, man, in the future. The only rightful loss I think they took was Texas Tech, who obviously they're going to, I hope, win the conference. The BYU loss, we talked about that at length, where you had basically 4 red zone trips that came away with either field goals or turnover on downs, and they lose by 3. And the funny thing about this Big 12 schedule, it's a bigger conference, not as big as some others. But people were complaining that the good teams had to play each other and using that as a justification for why they should have more than one team in.
Yeah, well, then you look at a team like Indiana that played 1.5 good teams all year. So, I mean, like, I think the best teams should have to play each other. I think that's very important for conferences. I think it's important for the sport. So, I mean, you probably will have that every year where people get mad at people's schedules. But if you look at the Big Ten with as many teams as they have, you have teams like, I mean, even Nebraska this year, their schedule wasn't hard at all. But I think it's very good for the sport if these teams are all playing the best teams in the conference.
Yeah, I agree. I like Utah. We will see where they end up next year. Bird Ficklin, their backup QB, has really flashed. Excited for him. Kansas, they're going to lose Daniels this offseason. They're not a program with a lot of money, so I'm not optimistic. Otherwise, Texas Tech slaughtered West Virginia. Not really too much to say there. They looked awesome outside of a couple turnovers, and 3.5 yards per carry was slightly alarming. BYU played with their food for the better part of 3 quarters, and they surged ahead of a dead UCF team at the very end. Those were the other teams that are now going to Texas Tech and BYU now going to face each other. A couple other interesting outcomes. Houston beat Baylor with a 31% post-game win expectancy. Baylor can't get out of their own way. And that's about it for big games within this conference. Arizona beat the corpse of Jeff Sims on Friday night. Anything the rest of the way with the Big 12?
I actually was, the Houston situation this year, it really good to see them get to 9 wins. I think that was overachieving to a lot of people for them this year. I think people thought they were going to be very limited, but I think the situation with Wegman and what Willie Fritz is building there, I think has been very impressive. Otherwise, I got a question for you with Texas Tech. I mean, I know it might be a tough situation. Do you think there is a world that they could get a bye in the playoff? Because you're probably going to sit at number 5 with these rankings on Tuesday.
I hadn't thought about that possibility.
It would have to be
someone's going to have to lose.
Georgia losing for them to maybe get that.
I think you're right.
Mm-hmm. Which I didn't really – I mean, I was looking at the standings, looking at the playoff picture right now and where the rankings sit. It's not entirely out of the question. A lot of things aren't right now, but I don't think it's entirely out of the question if they do get that bye.
If any team outside the top 2 conferences deserves it, I think it is them.
They look really good right now.
Their only loss was when their backup quarterback looked like a pumpkin against Arizona State.
And also, if we do look at this championship game going forward, I think it's going to be the same result. I know people are worried about BYU being the enemy of the playoff right now. I really don't think anyone has to worry about that. Aside from Texas being inept in the red zone and just being a field goal team for most of the time this year, I think it's going to be the same result that we saw about 6 weeks ago. I really do.
I agree with you. That line is all the way out to 13.5 at a lot of places.
Mm-hmm. And then Arizona State, I know we kind of touched on it a little bit. That was going to be a very limited situation with Jeff Sims anyway. I mean, 7 years of college football. I mean, it was cool to see him play a little bit this year. I know he's been a journeyman, but Arizona, impressive finish to the season. I really kind of like what I saw there the past 4 or 5 weeks.
You know where Jeff Sims started his career?
He was Georgia Tech.
You know what year?
2019.
You know who else was in that recruiting class? For Georgia Tech?
No.
Jahmyr Gibbs.
No way.
That was both of them were freshmen. Both of them started right away as true freshmen at Georgia Tech. Jeff Sims and Jahmyr Gibbs.
That actually is crazy.
And Jordan Mason was on that team, if I'm not mistaken.
That's insane. Yeah,
it's amazing.
I think it was. He's been there forever.
Yeah, man, it's amazing how some of these coaches can't figure out what they have with NFL talent. That's it. That is a shot at you, Herm Edwards. I know you're one of the 10 people watching.
Anyway, I think we will see. I mean, other than the JUCO situation, that's got to get figured out. With this being the last year of the COVID years, I think we'll start to see less of that. I really do.
Yeah, eventually they're going to go to 5 years. They have to. But we'll see when that comes. It's just too many lawsuits they're catching. They're going to have to open this up. And the red shirt it was built for it's basically prehistoric at this point form of college football with no player movement. Players with the same school could develop it. It's just not the way of the world anymore. But let's go to the ACC, the conference that had the most chaos. This is where we really need to spend some time. The first game I want to talk about is actually the crossover between the SEC and the ACC, the Atlantic Clown Conference. Georgia Tech played Georgia and found a way to lose despite a 72% post-game win expectancy. I mean, this was an awful game from both sides. I thought Georgia's defense actually played really well. This was the first time Haynes King has really been stopped. And a lot of times Georgia Tech will grind teams out with these quarterback runs. They're basically trying to do the Army thing where we're going to get 3 yards, and if it's 4th and 1, we're going to go for it, and we're going to get 3 yards again, and you're not going to stop us the whole way down the field. They were rarely in down and distances that were favorable. They could even use their regular plays on 3rd down because they didn't have the ability to run the ball. They were such deep, long and distances. Meanwhile, Georgia, I mean, what was this offensive game plan? I'll open it up to you, man. What was this?
Well, I mean, they seemed very limited everywhere. And obviously what you're going to be doing with this rivalry, right? This is always going to be a close game. There's absolutely no question about that. But I mean, from what they've been the past month, this has been a well-oiled machine. We had 70 passing yards from Georgia in this game. 70 passing yards. So there's no question that they were one-dimensional here. And I know Georgia Tech even they've had games where defense has not been that great at all. So, I mean, the offense for Georgia was concerning. You're going to get Georgia Tech's best game of the year when they play this game every year. There's no question about that. But I mean, I think Georgia's fine. Last year was a shootout. Went to, I believe, 7 overtimes, something like that.
7 or 8.
I think it was 7 overtimes. I mean, so a different result than what we saw last year. But we're going to get a good competitive game every year. I think they probably saw something that they were going to be able to sneak by with as they were game planning throughout this week. But yeah, I wasn't very much impressed with their offense. But I mean, their defense was phenomenal.
Defense phenomenal. The only thing I'll say is, there's got to be some injuries. There was way too much Josh McCray in this game. And they have about 4 backs I would use over him. The only one that played was Frazier. So I was a little confused by the personnel choices. And then when Frazier ran the ball, they were getting 5 or 6 yards per carry. When McCray ran the ball, it was 3.3. So first and foremost, run the ball more. Second, do it with your best running back. And the last thing is just why were they passing the ball so much when they just could run the ball down Georgia Tech's throat? They
should have ran 50 times in that game. They should have just ran 50 times.
Dude, and this was a problem early in the game. Now, there were a couple of things that are worth noting. Drew Bobo got hurt in the game. When he went down, things changed for Georgia. They need him on the interior. That's going to be a huge problem if he's out. I don't know what the prognosis is moving forward. There were also injuries on the Georgia Tech side. Both Clayton Powley and Zachary Toby got hurt. Those are defensive backs. Ethan McKinney, their tackle, only played 8 snaps. So this was a bloodbath for both teams. I guess moving forward, the biggest thing I need to know for Georgia is the health. I almost wish they were not playing in the SEC championship so they could have some extra time to rest. But ultimately, I think they are locked to get in. I don't think this team is in danger. Georgia Tech obviously dead. So I'm kind of curious how Georgia plays this in the SEC championship. Do you have any read there?
I mean, knowing Kirby Smart's mindset going into this game, he wants to beat Alabama because he always seems to turn into a pumpkin in this game. There's always,
they're taking a ton of money for
some reason. Kirby Smart just could not beat Alabama, but this is definitely a game he wants to win. Depending on what their injury report does look like this week, are we going to see one dimension or another on the offensive side of the ball? Maybe, but I mean, to me, if you really think about it, I think that Kirby Smart's going to go in, give his best effort with this team. I think they do really want to win that game. I do.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm just hopeful. Drew Bobo, I mean, it looked awful, so I don't know. But anyway, Georgia Tech is dead. No need to spend more time there.
Okay year for them. It was fine.
Yeah, their defense needs to be better. They fired their DC last year, and they were horrible on defense again, right outside the top 100. But anyway, Miami slaughtered Pitt. The Pitt dream is dead. Miami, this is the most laughable thing probably in the entire ACC. They finished with 2 losses. And, I mean, you could poke holes in the losses, absolutely. Is that better than what Duke put on the field this year, though? I mean, like, my goodness, man, what is this conference doing? I call it the Atlantic Clown Conference in the beginning of the breakdown here for a reason. Like, who is in charge of this conference, man? Get your tiebreakers in order. And I know you made your conference so big, you made everything so confusing because no one plays each other. You can't just do head-to-heads because, like, Pitt plays 9 games against Conference USA. You added every bad team from other conferences so you could try to stack up with the SEC in the Big Ten, and you failed. I mean, like, what is this nonsense?
So this is my take on the tiebreakers because I know head-to-head is it's important, right? You got to play the teams, you got to beat the teams that you play, right? But I look at these standings here, right? And you have Virginia, SMU, Miami. They're technically the top 3 of the conference, right? And then you have Duke, who's actually going to be playing Virginia. Duke and Miami are both 6-2 in the conference, right? Duke is 7-5. Miami is 10-2. It should be simple enough that, yes, although Duke has that important head-to-head there, 10-2 should get in over 7-5 if you're both 6-2 in the conference. That's just me. I know that's not how it is going to work everywhere. Why are you penalizing them for winning 10 games? Oh, you lost to Duke. Yeah, that sucks. But also they should probably still be the team that's representing the other side in that championship game.
Miami didn't play either of the teams in this game. So, I mean, I don't Miami,
understand it.
It's like a convoluted tiebreaker procedure because none of the good teams, you and me were talking about this weeks ago, that this was going to come down. Well, first of all, we knew Georgia Tech and Virginia controlled their path since like week 6 because they didn't play any of the top teams in the conference the rest of the way. Miami's losses are to Louisville. It's not a good loss, but I mean, it's a lot better than most. And SMU.
The SMU loss was bad. It was the overtime loss too. That was bad.
It was bad, but it's still a lot better than what like Duke put on the field this year. Duke lost to this team. Duke lost to Illinois. Duke lost to Tulane. Duke lost to Georgia Tech. They lost to UConn, and they lost to Virginia.
So there's the world now where Duke wins this game, and we're not going to get an ACC representative. Which at this point, because they've dug their grave, I think this conference actually deserves that. I really do.
I mean, they deserve that. I'm not watching this conference championship. Whatever game they put into the playoff, I will not watch it. As a fan of this sport, you have very little power to influence change. The only thing you can do is influence these people with your attention. If you watch this nonsense and encourage them to make bad decisions, that's on you. I won't do it. I will not support this product that the ACC has put on the field. And it's not even the football itself. It's what these decision makers have done with the tiebreakers and putting Cal in this conference and Stanford and ruining the product flat out. It's the worst conference in the country.
Well, they already mess up with this game anyway because everyone in America is going to be watching the Big Ten championship, and that's usually how it goes. And this game is always on at the exact same time as the Big Ten game. That what they really should do is they should just put it on Friday and call it a day. They should.
I mean, this conference is going to get worse. They're going to lose Florida State. They're going to lose Clemson. Those teams are leaving this conference, and they're going to lose some other teams too. I mean, I don't think like Virginia Tech's a good program or like someone else is leaving too. I mean, this is just the laughing stock of college football, the way they've treated it. But anyway, there were other impactful games in this conference. There were actually a lot of them. If you just go down the list, there was the Cal upset, which also gave us this conference championship as much as the ACC. SMU dropped the game 38-35 with an 85% post-game win expectancy. Like
that fourth quarter was nuts, though.
Yeah, they let Sagapolutele eclipse 300 yards. He had a great game. I mean, Kendrick Raphael had like 20 carries in the first half. That dude, I don't know how he stayed healthy. Insane workload for him. It was a good game for Cal. They looked motivated under Rolovich. SMU falters, and now we have the worst ACC championship of my lifetime. Duke took care of business to get into this game, beating Wake Forest. Nothing really to see. Wake Forest outgained them 6.2 to 5.1. I mean, the only reason Wake Forest lost is Duke finally got on the right side of turnover variance. They generate 4 and had 0 themselves. If I know Darian Mensah, he's got 4 sitting in the bank ready for this conference championship. Anything in the ACC the rest of the way? Yeah,
I'm not going to lie. I'm kind of sick of SMU at this point. They've just disappointed me week after week this whole year. So I am sick of that whole team right now. I am. So again, they're another one that's like, yes, you have done this to yourself. So you are not playing for a title this year. You're just not. But if we look at the other side, good year for Cal, 7-5. I think that's overachieving for them. I really do.
I bet they're under win total.
Yeah, I mean, they had a good year. I mean, it was funny. Like, I know I talked to a lot of my friends with betting and with Cali. They were either our favorite team of the week or they were our least favorite team of the week because it was a roller coaster year. They ended up doing okay, 7-5. And then with Duke, I mean, Duke's been another team. Like, they lost by 28 to Illinois. So, I mean, like, you're putting teams in this championship game that just not really stuck out as legit playoff contenders by any means. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens, man. I mean, it's going to be a game where I think Virginia wins that game because they already beat Duke once pretty handily this year. So we'll see what happens, but I'm right there with you with the ACC. Something's got to change, even though it won't probably change in immediate fashion at all.
That first game was weird. It was Duke really struggled on offense, and I believe they missed a field goal in the game. It was I don't know, very weird contest against Virginia. My model made that a pick'em, which I need to do some more work on, but just worth
based on the line. I think that makes sense. Yeah,
we'll see. I mean, that suggests that I should bet it then, but I don't know if I want to do that. I don't know. We'll talk about that at the end of the show. There wasn't too much else in this conference. Clemson finally looked like a pretty good team, beating South Carolina. I mean, they're better than both teams in the conference championship, probably, funny enough. Stanford got rolled by Notre Dame, so maybe if you have anything on Notre Dame, this is probably the time to talk about it. The other cross-conference game was Louisville-Kentucky. Kentucky's just dead. Louisville slaughtered them. Otherwise, it was a lot of blowouts. Florida killed Florida State. Yeah. Anything on Notre Dame or anything you want to round up in the ACC?
Notre Dame. Yeah, I know Notre Dame was actually, I know, a pretty hot topic with the playoff yesterday. I think without question they deserve to get in. I watched, you know me knowing my my late night football, I watched pretty much every single play of that game. And Love getting hurt, though, I will say it was very risky putting him back in. Funny enough, I did bet some Love props that did not hit. But risky situation. I know they wanted to put him back in that game because I know they really wanted him to get the Heisman. So we'll see what happens with that. I don't know if he will. I think if you look at players most deserving, I think he actually does deserve that award this year because he's been phenomenal this year to watch. He's been so exciting. He's been the most exciting player in the country to me. I think this team more than deserves going into the playoff. I think they're I think you can make the case they're a top 7 team in the country right now. So I know that they were trying to score at the end there to get some style points. They've done everything they can since starting 0-2. So whatever happens, it's going to be up to the committee. But I think Notre Dame is very, very deserving of getting in. I think whoever they play, I looked last week. I know it might be a little different this week. They're projected to play Oklahoma. I think Notre Dame dominates Oklahoma in all phases. So this is a team that I think is very dangerous if they do get in.
Yeah, I agree. The strength of schedule was mostly occupied by those losses, but again, they lost those games by 4 points combined. Then they beat USC, which is a quality win. There were some other wins that are decent, like they slaughtered Arkansas, who's an SEC team. So other than that, you can't really do anything about the schedule. They murdered everyone in front of them. I don't think this team should be ranked high. They're not. A lot of the computers think this team should be in the playoff, not high, which is not what they're going to be. I think if you argue against Notre Dame, it's just pretty much on the back of you want them to play in a conference championship or something, and they don't because of their independence. But this team is deserving. I don't think there's any real argument against them getting in other than just biases. So, yeah, I'm with you on Notre Dame.
The Arkansas win. Arkansas is 2-10, but would be 6-6 in the Big Ten, probably at worst. I'm be completely honest.
Arkansas, their schedule.
Yes.
6-point loss to Ole Miss.
Mm-hmm.
1 point loss to Memphis that they should have won it. Go back and watch the highlights of that game if you really want to, I don't know. It'll make you sick probably. They got murdered by Notre Dame. 3-point loss to Tennessee. 3-point loss to Texas A&M. 9-point loss to Auburn. 3-point loss to Mississippi State. 1-point loss to LSU. Got murdered by Texas. Got murdered by Mizzou. Those were the last 2 weeks when they changed QBs. I mean, their whole schedule outside of 3 games is single-digit losses. And some of these had positive post-game win expectancies. Like they had a 60% post-game win expectancy against Auburn, 73% against Mississippi State, 64% against LSU. People can dog Arkansas all they want. This team is not bad. This team would be in a bowl in every conference other than the SEC.
Exactly.
Period. That is not up for debate. Period. So
they're a good team. They just play in a bloodbath every single week.
And they had a horrible coach. They fired him for a reason. He couldn't win close games. I mean, some of that nonsense, like the Memphis game, was egregious. Arkansas is absolutely not a bad team. All you need to do is Google Arkansas and take a look at their box scores and realize how close they played. Teams that are in the playoff this year, this very year, played at least 2 of them, 3 of them.
I also, the Pittman situation, we talking about that, he probably should have been fired 2 years ago, for being honest.
That was because of his buyout. They didn't want to pay him.
Which you're seeing a lot more teams do that now.
Pay or fire him through the buyout?
Well, teams are just, I think a lot of teams are now just going to try to keep some of these guys like 1 more year to drop it down $5-10 million.
Yeah, a lot of the broke teams do that.
Mm-hmm.
Arkansas is definitely not towards the top of the SEC in spending. They're a team that does that. Like, there's a very real argument. Wisconsin's doing that this year. A lot of teams are doing that.
I'm not surprised with the Pickle situation at all.
I mean, they don't have any money to play. They don't have any money to recruit players. You think they're going to pay 2 coaches? No chance. The team is nothing together right now. All right, let's go to the American quickly, round up some of these conferences before the title games. The American, the 2 teams that made the conference title played nobodies this week. I think the most exciting game was Navy-Memphis. I bet Memphis. It was a loser. It was dead even yards per play, but overall, Navy had a couple explosives, which kind of really just turned the tide of the game. That conference championship is North Texas Tulane. I bet North Texas already, so I'm very interested in. And both of those teams played basically the weakest schedules you possibly could in the American. While, like Memphis played Navy and South Florida. Like a lot of the really good teams just beat each other out of this title game. When North Texas and Tulane didn't play as many of those games, they were able to end up with better records. But anything in the American?
I think if you look at the games I'm most excited about this coming weekend, obviously Indiana, Ohio State's number 1. North Texas Tulane is a very close second for me. I am so excited to see this game. I also already bet North Texas. I think that over also might actually feed families, so I'm looking towards that as well. I think there's going to be 1,000,000 points in that game. I'm very excited to see both these teams come out. This matchup is just phenomenal for college football, and it's one that if you haven't had a lot of time to watch G5 ball this year, I think this is a great opportunity to do so. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I'm also happy that they are letting Morris continue to coach throughout the rest of the season, because I think that is very important for a coach to be able to be there for his players, even though a lot of these programs understand that guys move up, especially from the G5. So the fact that they're letting them stay, one, gives them a leg up, I think, in this game, and two, is also just good for the program that he's able to finish this year.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to OK State. It's not LSU. So, I mean, if they didn't want him to stay there, I would just be like, look, man, your team is awful. I'll go somewhere else. So I don't think OK State was working with as much leverage as LSU or Ole Miss in that situation. But in the Sun Belt, Troy upsets Southern Miss. They punched their ticket to face James Madison this week. I already bet that game as well, 21.5 in favor of James Madison. This is about the best case scenario for the Dukes as they face a team that I don't even know if they should really be here right now. The one feather in Troy's cap is Goose Crowder's returned. He's played 2 games now. The West Virginia transfer, he's their QB. I don't know if he makes a big enough difference for Troy to get this done. I'm a little worried about a number of things with Troy, but it's probably more for the breakdown. What do you think about this game? Anything in the Sun Belt? It was kind of a lackluster outing other than this game. JMU slaughtered Coastal, and Coastal fired their coach. What did you see?
So for this game, that's a very large spread. I think I'm looking towards a JMU win team total over in this game, if we look at it, because this team's going to score 1 million points on Troy. Troy is just, I think they're going to get slaughtered on defense this coming week, which, if you turn a JMU game on this year, every third play is them running 90 yards for touchdown. They've been absolutely explosive in the run and pass game. So I'm going to probably still tune in a little bit to see what's happening, but I'm looking for this game specifically probably towards a JMU team total over. I think that's going to be I think that should be a good spot for this game, because again, I think they will win handily. I am concerned about some possible backdoor action towards the end of that game.
I could see that. I mean, this team did just get shut out to Old Dominion 2 weeks ago with Goose Crowder too. Their QB was back in that game. I'm on JMU. Sounds like you'll be in some capacity as well. In the Mountain West, it did come down to the tiebreaker. It's a computer system. I still don't know how it's done, but Boise State is going to face UNLV. I thought San Diego State, New Mexico was going to be an elimination game. Turns out they were both dead, and this was a meaningless game that didn't need to be played. But San Diego State found a way to lose in double overtime with a 75% post-game win expectancy. I think I'm just kind of sad, man. Like, I watched this game. I was pumped for this game. I thought the winner was going to potentially play for a title, and just like, what are we doing here? What are we doing?
I really want to know what goes into this computer equation, though, because it doesn't seem like it's the BCS, but it also doesn't. It's not a bunch of people voting on it either. So I don't know what's involved with this.
Dude, I mean, like, Boise State has like 5 losses.
Yeah, and we're going to get a game
non-conference.
And also, I do think the UNLV game, this Boise State UNLV rematch, I think there's going to be a lot of points. I don't see UNLV being able to stop Boise again.
Well, Boise had Maddox Madsen in their first game. I don't think he's going to play here. This team has been horrible with Cutforth. Horrible.
So I would hope to see that. I mean, this could be one of those games where we just see a pure shootout, which I actually do look towards the over for this game, but the UNLV's just not been able to stop anyone this year who's been worth any salt.
That's true. Cutforth is probably going to throw for a career high.
He could.
It doesn't matter who plays UNLV. But for Boise, like, they played Utah State. They won by a point. They had a 28% post-game win expectancy, outgained in the contest. I mean, I don't know. What are we doing here? I hope UNLV wins. I don't feel confident in anything there.
I hope they win too, though.
I probably won't bet that game. We'll see. Time will tell. Otherwise, I did not put the MAC. It was a sleepy week in the MAC. We're going to end up with Miami, Ohio, Western Michigan. I am betting Western Michigan. But Conference USA had an elimination game. Western Kentucky played Jacksonville State, and we got another outcome that didn't align with post-game. Western Kentucky, 34, Jacksonville State, 37. However, Jacksonville State only had a 41% post-game win expectancy. They did pretty much dominate in yardage. So this is a little funky. Basically, the bottom line was this was a coin flip game that Jacksonville State won. And now they're going to play Kennesaw. Kennesaw also barely outlasted Liberty, and not a good Liberty team. Liberty's not going to a bowl this year, and Liberty had their backup quarterback in the game. So, yeah, as usual, Conference USA continues to be the Big 12 of the G5.
anything else the rest of the way?
I'm looking forward to that championship game. I think I'll probably bet Jacksonville State. I mean, Kennesaw has been a team that if I've faded this year, it's just not gone well. So they've won a lot of games that I thought were certainly going the other way. But I actually am really looking forward to that. Again, I like Jacksonville State in that one, but I am excited to see what happens with them on Friday.
Me too. So we know the 9 conference championship matchups. We've alluded to every single one on here. The ones I've taken so far, I did lay 21.5 with James Madison. I laid 2.5 with North Texas. I'm really kicking myself for not taking Texas Tech at 11 yesterday. It's out to 13 in a lot of spots. I was able to catch a 12.5, so lucky enough there. Western Michigan I played as well at 2.5. I don't know what I'm going to end up doing in Duke, Virginia. I'm not sure what I'm going to do in Ohio State, Indiana. I love Indiana, and I think they might keep it close, but part of me also thinks Ohio State wins by 40. Georgia, I'm going to need to see the injury report probably midweek. That comes out on Wednesday night. Keep your eyes peeled for the SEC injury report. It comes out around 7 Central Time, I think. And then for the Friday games, I'm probably going to take UNLV. I don't really see this being at risk of running away from the 3.5. I'm not sure on the Kennesaw stuff. Any quick look aheads you want to mention? I know you talked the Conference USA stuff there for a second, but go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Friday night, right now, I like Jacksonville State at -1.5. I think if we're looking at this Mountain West game, I like the over 57.5 in that UNLV game. I think one team might just get there themselves. If we're looking at the MAC, I like Western Michigan. Speaking of Western Michigan, they've been one of my best betting teams this year. They've been fantastic. So that's a nominee for Wagon of the Year. I'm also not sure what I'm going to do with Duke, Virginia myself. Probably going to play Georgia in the SEC championship, and I'm leaning towards Ohio State. I think that 5.5 is a weird number right now, but I still think the Buckeyes take care of business.
I tend to agree there. Quickly from the chat, thank you to everyone out there. I don't think Jed Fish is out. I don't understand Penn State at all. Yeah, me either. Wisconsin's going to get Drew Aller's leg to transfer. I think Drew Aller's out of eligibility. Correct me if I'm wrong. Am I wrong on that?
I think he's done. I think he plays too many games this year, dude.
I think he's got to go to the pros. So get your draft props out. We'll see what he does in round 4. James Franklin, yeah. I mean, with the ACC, I'm happy some teams are trying to invest. Like Virginia Tech was a mess. Virginia this year injected a ton of money into their program, and all it took was the money to get them to the title game and a decent schedule. So hopefully Virginia Tech's already flipped a ton of recruits. I'm kind of just scrolling through the comments quickly. Anything else you see there?
Babs made fun of me saying double-digit millions. Bryce Underwood has too much money to throw for under 100 yards. That's basically what I was getting at there. But no, what else we got?
Put UConn in the ACC. I agree, man.
I actually don't hate that.
I mean, if you're gonna put Cal and Stanford in, why not? No ACC in the playoff. I used to pray for times like these. Shout out me.
I don't disagree one bit. You've dug your grave. You should sit in it for that. Yeah. Shout out to Kansas for covering. That was a good bet.
They should have won outright, maybe, but I don't know. Yeah.
Yep. And then we did cover chat's request to talk about Jeff Sims. So that was business taken care of right there.
Last time, unless we ever start doing some XFL streams, I think it is the last time. Hey, we got a Jeff Sims Bowl, though.
We do have a Jeff Sims Bowl. That'll be fun.
Is Southern missing the championship? No, I thought they were going to be, sadly. Notre Dame to the Mountain West. It'd be better than what they do now, probably. And then you still get to play Boise, who they love playing. All right, guys. Thank you. One thing, I didn't say it at the top. If you or somebody who knows a gambling problem, please call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. But that'll do it for Nate and myself. Thank you guys for watching. We'll be back. Next week might be a little different. Nate and I are planning a bowl extravaganza, so that may end up taking the place of this show. It might be on Monday or Tuesday. Some things to iron out there. We'll get the bowl matchups following conference championship weekend. So wait and see on that. We'll make an announcement. But otherwise, thank you for being here. We'll be back again next time. Until then, good luck, everyone. We will see you later.